I didn't see Second Life as a symptom. I saw it and still see it as an amazing environment. Second Life is not a pathology. This is Dr. Tammy Fletcher, a.k.a. Avalon Burke, and you're listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. It's better than therapy.
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour. I'm Drax Dupree and it's darn early as I record this. Jo Yardley is not with us because we're on a summer hiatus officially. This is the rerun portion of the year. That does not mean you should not listen. It means that you should listen because we have compelling reruns and we have the occasional thing thrown in here that I grab from the road wherever I am and whoever VR or SL luminary I might bump into. As a matter of fact, I'm going up to Linden Lab in approximately 10 days, so I'll get some audio from there. I will also be at the Leap Motion head office to get a private tour with founder of Leap Motion, David Holtz, co-founder. And we have tons of tape from the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference. I didn't get through editing those interviews. There's tons of really interesting stuff. So that will be sort of doled out over the course of the summer. But today we have Tammy Fletcher, a.k.a. Avalon Burke. Now, this is an interview we ran in show 37, and Tammy Fletcher is a licensed marriage and family therapist in the San Diego area, and she also is a longtime Second Life resident. She came in 2006, started the Wellness Island, did mental health informational sessions, private therapy sessions. It's a fascinating subject, and we'll play this interview that was originally broadcast in show 37. Real quick, you know the drill. You can still support us, although we're not here. We're in the summer mode, and Jo is meshing around with her things in 1920s Berlin. There you go. I mention it. Every time I mention it, I get a Linden dollar. You know how it goes. But you can support the show. You can become a corporate sponsor. You can get a individual subscription. All that sort of thing. It's all on the website. Just contact us. Now, I put out spontaneously sweepstakes to give away one Leap Motion that was still lying around here on Facebook only. Don't worry, folks. I'm not a big fan of Facebook myself, so we're going to do a non-Facebook sweepstakes. But we have a winner of the Facebook sweepstakes. You just had to like a status on the Drax Files Radio Hour Facebook page. Very simple. And the winner is... da-da-da-dum. The winner is Chris Spade. Congratulations, Chris. I don't know what you're going to do with that Leap Motion, but it goes out to you as soon as I have your address. And then when I'm coming back from the Leap Motion head office, I will hopefully have a whole big bag of Leap Motions that we can give away. So if you want a Leap Motion and you're not on Facebook, then go to the SL profile feed of this show and say, I'm listening to the show and I want a Leap Motion now. Post those exact words. Punctuation doesn't matter. What else? I wrote this on an old school piece of paper here. Nothing VR about it. Oh yeah, there's nothing more other than go read the blogs. Go read the relevant Second Life blogs to learn all about the fact that Twitch thinks Second Life is adult-oriented. Read about Apple buying a augmented reality software company called Meta.io, which was announced just, I think, yesterday. So you will not learn from us these things. You will learn them from Road to VR, from Ciaran Laval's blog, from Inara Pay's blog, and so on and so forth. So you will also learn, of course, about things such as, which I think is awesome, the Google Jump platform that is coming where you can make 360 degrees virtual reality videos. Anyway, I'm talking too much now that Jo doesn't rein me in, so let's go to the interview with Tammy Fletcher, aka Avalon Burke. Here she is, recounting how she got started in Second Life in 2006.
I kind of stumbled around, and you begin to meet people, and as you get to know them, conversations come up about what you do and sort of where you live, and I made some friends and told them what I did for a living. And the idea of mental health resources and information and education in Second Life was very interesting to a lot of people. And I thought, this could be really fun and maybe helpful to someone.
how did the practice look like?
It was very much like my real life practice. The way the appointments were set up, how you made an appointment. I took confidentiality and privacy very seriously, which isn't so easy always on the internet. That was one of the reasons behind buying an island, because I knew at the time that I could control to some degree, some of the confidentiality. So we would have an office 5,000 meters in the sky, surrounded with a security bubble. No, I ended up with more people than I could manage. And I was working on my PhD. I was working in real life. The big difference was I think I only charged maybe 1,000 linden or so. It's $5 to see a licensed therapist. You can't beat that deal. But I loved it. I loved doing it.
That should have been this promotional video. You can't beat that deal.
I felt like there was such a need that it was definitely worth exploring. I got so much out of it. I met such great people and really learned a lot about what I would consider the needs of mental health services and resources in a virtual environment.
When you mentioned peer training, what does that mean? What kind of training did you do with individuals in Second Life?
We actually started just based on need. People that would come to see me at workshops, to work with my colleagues in Second Life. And there are physicians, as you know, there are physicians, there are psychologists, there are social workers who are legitimate. There are lots that are not. That's just straight up criminal behavior. And I would take it as far, maybe I take my job too seriously, but if someone goes into Second Life and says they're a physician, or says they're a therapist and they're not, to me, that's bordering on criminal as well. We have a responsibility. We have, we hopefully just by our training and our licensure that we can open the door to a certain amount of trust. And the more people that lie about it, I think we all take a hit for that. Oh, Second Life, those people are just a bunch of fakers. And they genuinely are not. But what we noticed was a need for people. As you know, there are people that live in Second Life. It has become almost their first life. And there can be some reasons for that where the person is too ill to go out, whether physically or mentally, emotionally ill. And Second Life is their lifeline. It becomes their life. They would be online 24/7. And I had some people who wanted to work with them as peers who I thought were pretty responsible. They did not have professional training. So we started a group called Guiding Lights. We had a curriculum. We had regular meetings, regular trainings. I developed a whole set of materials for them to keep with them when I wasn't online. I didn't want to be on call 24 hours a day. I've got someone here who's suicidal. Here are some things that you can give that person. It doesn't have to go through me. We don't deal with that. We send them. We try to help them find real life help for something that's that serious.
But if I understand you correctly, then you almost built up a system. You built up a system where people were able to get help 24/7 without you being there.
It did end up that way. Maybe 25 volunteers who were happy to do it. And so there was pretty much always someone. And then I also, throughout Second Life, set up kiosks for which someone could come, and it was like a first aid, mental health first aid, 911, or whatever it is in your country, global list of emergency contacts. And those, I still get emails. Those are still around Second Life. That was what I wanted, was a safety net upon a safety net upon a safety net. If someone needed help, that they could at least get a phone number or someone that could talk to them.
Going back to approaching Second Life or taking what Second Life offers and making it useful in a therapeutic setting. If you can give me some examples, obviously there's the confidentiality issue, but just sort of a ballpark, what people came to you with, what types of issues they came to you with when you practiced in SL back then.
I think above all, they came to me with Second Life specific issues.
I was just gonna guess that, the drama and the kind of relationships and this kind of stuff,
where they would have a partner and they would be serious and they would maybe be partnered or married in Second Life, and then they find out that that person is not the gender they thought they were, or the person has a real life spouse and maybe nothing is ever going to come of this. How do they deal with it? The person has an alt who has been posing as a friend. Now, those are things that I think if you took to the average real-life psychotherapist, they might see right away, wait, you said Second Life? Okay, there's your first symptom. Where I didn't see Second Life as a symptom. I saw it and still see it as an amazing environment where there are real people and real feelings and real things happening. So we got that out of the way right away and tried to deal with the basic issues, which are the same, of trust, communication, boundaries. That's one of the things that I miss the most about Second Life, is that type of discourse with my colleagues about the validity of that environment. Yes, it's very different, but it's not a game. I'm the card carrying, flag waving. No, this is not a game. You can certainly play chess within it if you'd like to, but Second Life itself is a virtual environment. So Second Life is not a pathology. That's not to say that people didn't use it in a pathological way. Big difference. But Second Life in itself is an amazing thing. It's not a symptom, unless the person literally cannot log off and they go without food and they ignore their children. That's a separate issue, though. That's an issue within the person. Second Life is just the platform in which that's taking place. So a lot of relationship issues people came with. Sometimes what they were dealing with in real life, especially for people who were around the world and had no access to any. They wanted to see a counselor in real life, but they couldn't get to one.
I was just going to add, this can even happen in industrialized countries. It can happen in the U.S. You could be isolated geographically. You may have a disability.
Exactly. I was happy to be there and listen and try to do the same job as I would if they'd been sitting in person. I saw them. I connected with them. Were they always honest? In a rare instance, no. And sometimes they got more honest as they got to know me. But you know what? That happens in real life.
How do you know when somebody comes into your physical practice that everything that he digs up or you dig up from his past, that there's not some modification of what actually happened?
People carry a lot of shame about things, about who they are and the things they like, the things they don't like, the way they want to live. And in person, just as well as Second Life, it takes some time to gain trust and to help that person feel like they want to be honest with you, and that's okay.
What is your, since we're on that subject, what is your sense? Do you think is wishful thinking on my part? Because I always think that in Second Life it might be actually easier to be more honest actually than sitting there sort of face to face. And you're asking a sensitive question. What is your relationship with your parents? Or what was that thing with your first girlfriend? It might be a lot easier to reveal these things in Second Life under this avatar disguise, if you will.
I think so too. I absolutely agree. And to me, if it makes it easier for the person to open up and get to the heart of the matter, that's fine with me. Again, I don't see that as a pathology. If someone comes in and they're a furry, and I've talked about this before, again, not a pathology. It's how they're choosing to express themselves. Sometimes there are lots of really interesting clues to who they are by their persona that they choose to present, their avatar, however, like I use furry for an example, but there could be lots of different things. I just always found those things really interesting. I thought the person was, and it quite often opened the door to conversations about who they were. And I think that there had to be some sense of feeling safe behind a screen, behind an avatar, but also the other side of that is that sometimes that set them free. It gave them a pathway to show me who they were. And that's what it's all about.
So the avatar identity, was it an icebreaker for you when somebody came in and you said, wow, this is an interesting avatar. Tell me about how did you arrive at this avatar?
Always. And I saw lots and lots of people and the reason I use furries is because I saw so many people from the furry community. They always had fantastic stories. I mean, there was always mythology and history, and I used to be this, but I got more confident and now I'm this.
I mean, there's a cliche about furries that there's some real deviant stuff going on. and I don't believe it. I know a few furries in real life, and I actually, this is on my radar to do a story about them. But there is a cliche stuck to furries somehow.
Yes, that it's all about sex. I did not a thesis, but a presentation on furries in grad school. And my professor in real life thought it was going to be all about sex. And it was human sexuality class. And what the bottom line is when there is sexual contact in the furry environment, it's typically very literate, very articulate, very romantic, very beautiful. I don't know if you've been to furry clubs in Second Life. I was invited a couple times. I was not ever a furry. I think they're beautiful, but I pretty much always look like just me in Second Life, except better shoes. But I got invited to a furry, and this is supposed to be the hardcore furry club. One of my clients invited me. He knows who he is if he's hearing this. I love this guy. And we waltzed. That's what we did. He waltzed with me. There was nothing, bizarre or scary going on. They were fantastic, and you could have a conversation about anything with anybody there. You're right. There is a misunderstanding, not just about furries, about any subculture.
I mean, a subculture is easy to make fun of, I suppose. I mean, for people outside, interestingly enough, for the gamer community, Second Life is that entire subculture which they love to make fun of. And I have my theories about that too. I mean, maybe you agree with me that I think some gamers, it's almost like, I smoke 2 packs of cigarettes. I don't. Just using it as a hypothetical. And then there's this guy who smokes 4 packs, and I gotta look at this guy. This guy's crazier. So basically what I'm saying, here I am a gamer. I'm playing Call of Duty 8 hours a day. I have this cognitive dissonance that there's something maybe wrong with it. But look over here, there's people who dress up as furries and they live a second life. They're crazier than I am.
Yeah, we don't understand, and so we make fun of it, we get scared of it, and we all see the world through a different framework, and to me, it's all good. As long as you're not hurting anyone and you're not hurting yourself, I just don't get that mindset. But have I been on the receiving end of it regarding Second Life? Still, to this day. And I will go to the mat with colleagues or friends who have something to say about Second Life, because I think it's a fantastic platform.
Another subculture, and that's how we met. I did this story about adoption, and I just recently did something with a child play community, which came out great. When we talked about this adoption thing, I mean, what is your take on it? That culture of people adopting children and having some of these people have amazing, elaborate, fictional families with like mothers and grandparents and everything.
It's a parallel to the furry discussion we just had. Playing a child, having a family in Second Life does not equate to child pornography, sex with children, using children in any way, shape, or form in an inappropriate way. Now, I'm a mother. I would be horrified. I would be reporting to the authorities. I would be livid if I saw something like that. But I had people who were members of Second Life families come to me. You've been in shops, you've been around Second Life when people bring their children, their child avatars, and they run around like kids do. That's probably the worst thing I can say about it, is just like real life families. I wonder if sometimes, and I've asked people, if they're portraying an 8-year-old child, they may be working through some issues that they had when they were 8 years old in real life. Maybe they weren't parented well. Maybe they weren't given the affection that they are now receiving and maybe healing from old damage in Second Life. So no, the adoption thing, sometimes, there are people that partner, that marry, and that's how they start a family. Maybe in real life, that's not going to be an option for them. But it's still a feeling of family. If your definition of family is very narrow, it has to look just like your family, then you're going to be offended. But if you can see that family is within the people that are defining it, it's that feeling of love, of support, of camaraderie, of connection and attachment, I would be hard-pressed to have a problem with that. And in fact, I think sometimes, again, people can be working through old issues. Lots of people were not parented very well in real life. And if they get a second chance to act it through and nobody's getting hurt by it, God bless them.
It literally becomes a second life. And this really has to do with us judging others more so than anything else, that we're really kind of judging, look at them, why are they doing this? I mean, I had literally people tell me, oh, I'm not interested in Second Life because I have a family and I live in a large city with museums. I mean, why would I kind of waste my time in there? Because I brought up the fact that there's a lot of artistic endeavors and might be interesting to check out. And then, so I felt that was offensive to me to dismiss it on the grounds of, I'm so cultured and I live in a major metropolitan area.
You know where I live. I live in a big city. I've got museums. And there are things in Second Life that take my breath away. A world of beauty or pain or just gorgeousness that someone has put their blood, sweat, and tears into. And I go to museums too.
Was there a situation in your practice in Second Life where you were really worried and then recommended or went a step further to intervene somehow? I mean, I'm thinking of a situation where somebody maybe was suicidal or something and you didn't know where that was, and you were kind of, what am I going to do now? I don't know where he or she is.
That's happened more than once, unfortunately. And whether or not it was a legitimate suicide threat or a threat of self-harm, I legally have to act on it to the best of my ability. And this was one of the drawbacks, one of the only drawbacks for me with working with people strictly online, is that they weren't always honest about how to contact them, or they would disappear. They're poof, they're gone. So I have had a number of conversations with Linden Labs, and I feel for them. They didn't get into this to be in the business of social services. So it affected my intake of clients in Second Life. It affected my screening of clients in Second Life, and limited to some degree. But then again, if someone is dealing with that level of symptomology where they want to kill themselves or they want to hurt themselves or they want to hurt someone else, they need a real life physician or emergency room. I can help a little bit. I can get them there. I can give them resources. And sometimes it wasn't true, but I have to respond to it as if it were each time. I have to take every single person seriously that says, I am going to hurt myself. I'm going to log off right now. Boom, I'm done. That's an emergency for me, for sure. And this is what bringing me back to those who go in world and state that they are qualified physicians or nurses or social workers or therapists or counselors. Going in and claiming those credentials, people will tell you things about their own risk factors. And if you don't know how to deal with that, and if you don't have some ethical boundaries and guidelines to follow, someone could get hurt. So that ultimately it's for the client's protection that we're honest about. I have an interest in psychology versus I've got multiple degrees and a license.
Maybe there should be a mechanism where Linden Lab should not allow people to advertise services if they're not somehow screened, somehow
verified. We even had a group with people in it, and it might even still be intact. I don't know if it's active. Of a physician, me, social workers, people that were legitimately, and we verified each other. It's not hard to verify someone. If you know my name, you can go look me up and see that I have a license number, and it's not hard. But it was just us. We're not Linden Lab. I feel for them because that's a big endeavor. But yeah, I think we're just freedom of individual expression. And when you're claiming to be a doctor, a medical doctor, and you're not. And the people that are the most upset about this are the actual medical doctors who are in Second Life. They don't like this one bit because they see the liability.
Now, let's go to this, my favorite subject matter. How do you explain, or how do you spar in real life with people who dismiss Second Life, specifically now for maybe in your field, although you don't practice in the world anymore, but do you have conversations with colleagues where they go, oh my, like we said earlier, oh my God, all this stuff is just one big addiction thing that needs to be eradicated? And then how do you respond? And first of all, does that happen often? And how does that come up?
I don't talk to a lot of colleagues about it. It just doesn't come up. In running a private practice, I'm not around other colleagues that much, if that makes sense. I have my own office. I'm in a suite of other offices with therapists who have their own offices. Usually I see closed doors and they see my door closed, and so we don't talk a lot. When I go to a training, particularly if we're talking about things like gaming addiction, which is a hot topic, I have no problem with kind of giving my little elevator speech about Second Life. Second Life is not a game. Second Life is a virtual environment. It's user created. It's incredible. Check it out before you develop an opinion about it. I have gotten my laptop out. I have Second Life installed on my work laptop and tried to show people that, to me, is key. It's very easy to make a judgment about something that you haven't seen. So I'll have some bookmarks of places where I will take them to say, and they're, immediately they're into it. They want to see, they want to go more places that are beautiful, botanical gardens and, whatnot, some of the art installations. Once someone actually sees what Second Life is and what it looks like, usually you've got them. Usually they realize that all of the mystery and misunderstandings about it sort of melt away when they see what it actually is.
Yeah, but still, I would imagine, this happens to me all the time. Always the question comes up with reality. It's always framed in this, here's reality and here's is escapism, essentially. That's how it's sort of framed all the time.
But so is TV from that framework.
No, you don't have to tell me, tell them.
Food, anything can be escapism, and escapism isn't in itself a bad thing. If you meditate, isn't that a form of, it's all in how we perceive it. It's all in kind of the glasses that we filter through meaning in what we see in our world. And it boils down to what is reality. Second Life is a reality. It absolutely is a reality. It's not an imaginary world, imaginary people. My way of, dealing with that the best, and I would say my friends and family have been more reluctant and reticent than my coworkers, but maybe because, I never hide that I'll go into Second Life or I'll say something about Second Life. They all know. But again, once they see it, once they go and dance, once they go and surf, or, any of the number of just silly things that make up this very innocent form, perhaps, of escapism.
What reservations does your family then have?
They're not very interested in Second Life. I think they have avatars. They all have avatars, friends and family. They've checked it out, but it's not something that they would ever choose to do. I think one of my dearest friends in real life her name is in my partner box, and she lives 2 miles from me, and we met through Second Life. She ended up living 2 miles from home, and we don't hang out in Second Life. We meet here in my house for coffee every week.
So was that a coincidence? She already lived there, and then you go, hey, wait a minute, I live over here.
Total coincidence.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
We found out we lived in the same city, and it turned out we lived in the same zip code and the same, so that's been, so she gets it. And kindly lets me squat on her land. So I have a place to live there.
Every time I talk to an old bee, in terms of Second Life, they always say, still Second Life does that, and I'm still, as if Second Life is over. I know you didn't say that, but that's, of course, that kind of sort of meme that Second Life is dead or it's dying. That happened. I remember that even started, Voice is coming, Second Life is dead. Now Linden Lab is building a new world. Second Life 2.0 will also maybe remain a niche. I suppose it's only a problem if the company that runs it goes bankrupt, because then we don't have a world. But my question to you is, in the future, in the new Second Life, what would you like to see changed? If you have 5 things that they could improve upon, which kind of bug you now? The rent is too high.
The rent is too high. There's no question. Where it keeps people from, it keeps not just me, it keeps people who want to add value to the environment. It makes it prohibitive. And it seemed like, and this is me being a bit out of touch, I'm sure, rather than Linden Lab, but it seems to, in my experience, that when Pathfinder Linden left, that things changed. At least for me. He personally took me under his wing and said, here, this is how you get some land. This is how you can, this is how you qualify to get this island. And so, yeah, it was too high for me to throw money. I mean, keep paying out and not making any money. I just wanted to break even, and I never came close. I think it keeps out people that want to bridging to real life with education, social services, that kind of thing.
We covered the double-edged sword that is avatar therapy, if you will. The plus side is the anonymity, and that's exactly then at the same time the flip side, as you pointed out. How will you go about when in the new Second Life you will be able to afford an entire continent? What would you do if you start this whole thing again in SL 2.0, the Wellness Island 2.0?
I think I would do things exactly the same. I would recreate what I had prior with obviously new materials. And I think I would expand the idea of groups so that it wasn't all my project. I was beginning to do that, but I would like to see things like groups for addiction, for example, maybe a 12-step type of a group where someone who has experience in that field could lead it. I'd like to do it again, bring it up to date, create more networking with some schools to see if perhaps we could start offering continuing education units and intern hours and more training. And so we keep at it, whether I'm working in Second Life or just going in to visit the hair fair. I'm still an advocate for Second Life, and I'm still an advocate for social services in a virtual environment, always. Linden Lab has given us so much. It's done so much for my life personally. One of my dearest friends in real life I met from Second Life. I've seen relationships work out and people get married and start families in real life. It's a different way of meeting people. It's 2014. It's not scary. It's not that foreign. And there's a whole lot that people might be missing out on.
That was Tammy Fletcher, Avalon Burke. Befriend her in-world and ask her. Maybe she can make an appointment. This is the end of the show. Let me see if I forgot anything. Oh yeah, if you're going to the Augmented World Expo, and if you see me, then just say hi. But stay at a distance. You can ask for an autograph, but stay at a distance so I know that you're not a crazy stalker. I had some problems recently. Kidding. I'm kidding. All right. The Augmented World Expo is from June 8th to June 10th in Santa Clara. And CEO of Linden Lab, Ebba Altberg, will be speaking there with the CEO of Altspace VR, Eric Romo. Altspace, of course, sort of a Second Life for goggles, I guess. That is a little bit flip of me to say, but I haven't seen it. Kaleo was in there at SVVR, and we'll have his interview with Eric Romo later in a few weeks. I hope, if I get around editing it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for supporting. Don't forget to read the blogs. Follow Joe and I on Twitter, and follow Drax Files on the SL profile feed, and leave us a voicemail on Skype. Oh yeah, I did forget one thing. Tony Parisi, he was scheduled to be on the show, but he was traveling. He wrote a blog post on Gaming Business Review called A Growing Rift in VR, where he talks about the fact that as Oculus has announced, they stopped developing for Macintosh and Linux platforms. Well, supposedly the joy of having an Oculus will require a kind of a powerful PC, gaming PC, and Tony is very eloquent as always on that subject matter, and he's not afraid to call it as he sees it. So I recommend you reading this. That's it for the show. Thank you for listening, and bye.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, Stitcher, Fateware by Damien Fate, Giza Creations, Arrows Avatars, Maven Homes, Madbee Productions, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Ison, Caravel Design, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Loki Elliott, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Fallen Gods Incorporated, What's Next, Abra Animations, Blue Moon Enterprises, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files, Avatar, Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.